Aloha, how's it? Mindy Rosser here. Today we are talking all about when to use your LinkedIn profile versus using your LinkedIn page. More on that in a minute. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. We had an off-season swell on the North Shore, so we surfed a lot, yes, the board, and spent a good amount of time in our camper van with friends and family and barbecuing. So much fun. So if you're curious and you like camper vans, you can check us out at We Be Vanning. That's our IG handle. But now it is time for Mondays with Mindy. This is a weekly show at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, where I talk about all things LinkedIn pipeline, promo, and profiles. And today, pages, what I call the three Ps of LinkedIn. So if you have questions about LinkedIn that you want me to answer, leave them below this post, whether you're watching from the replay or you're watching live, and I'll answer them after the show or on a future episode of Mondays with Mindy. So let's get to today's topic. When should you use your LinkedIn page versus your LinkedIn profile? This can be a bit tricky because with LinkedIn pages, many of you may not be aware of what they are or how they are being used on LinkedIn right now. So, do you actually need one? Are they useful? Do you actually post to them? For those of you who are business owners and recently asked me to review your LinkedIn profile, I most likely suggested that you create a LinkedIn page for your business. And if you haven't gotten your LinkedIn profile review yet, you can shoot me a message and I'll add you to my queue. Okay, so LinkedIn pages are valuable in a few different ways. The problem happens when you treat a LinkedIn page like you would a Facebook page or an Instagram account because they are not at all the same. So, for most of us using LinkedIn pages, they're not the most important or relevant way to engage with our audience or our target market on LinkedIn. But the thing is, you actually have to have a LinkedIn page if you have a business. It's critical if you don't have a page for your business that you set one up right away. So, what if you don't even have a LinkedIn page yet? Here's what can happen. First of all, LinkedIn automatically will create one for you. And this has happened to a number of people that I know. And you'll have to contact LinkedIn to actually claim your page, which can feel a little awkward, especially if you are setting up a new page and now you have to claim a page that's already set up. So it can get a little bit wonky. You'll also have that little building icon. You probably know what I'm talking about. In your job experience, let's link to your company, which looks pretty blank. And it gives the appearance to other people that don't know you that you don't have a legitimate business, which is a problem. You could also miss a number of business opportunities when people actually search for your business on LinkedIn and they can't find it. And if you have a medium sized business or it's bigger than that, there's an opportunity to post consistently and get engagement on your page, leading to your LinkedIn profile, which we'll talk about in a little bit. You could also miss out on the power of using your page and your profile together. There's a lot of synergy when it's done well. If you have the bandwidth, this could be an opportunity for you, and we'll talk about that. So, not to worry, we're going to discuss a few important getting started tips for LinkedIn pages to help you get crystal clear on what you need to do next with your LinkedIn page. So, having a decent LinkedIn page ensures you cover all of the bases and can easily be found and appear credible to your target audience. A little thought here and putting it together goes a long way. And for those of you concerned about how long it takes to set up a page, it really only takes about 15 minutes to set up a page, even if you don't have one yet. So it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Okay, so aloha for those who don't know me. My name is Mindy Rosser. I'm the founder of Mindy Rosser Marketing, and I have a signature pipeline building program called LinkedIn for Business, and it's specific to B2B business leaders and professionals who want to use LinkedIn for Business. I help leaders and experts like you rapidly fill your pipeline and scale your influence on LinkedIn so you can focus on growing your business. And this live, we are going to talk about why not having a LinkedIn page can make you lose credibility fast and miss out on business opportunities, and when to actually use your LinkedIn page. So, are you ready? I'm so ready. Let's do this. Go ahead and like this post, whether you're live or watching from the replay, and give it some social love that helps to boost it in the algorithm. All right, so a common mistake I see quite often is not understanding the LinkedIn page and when to use it. Kind of like what we just talked about. People either create a page and start posting from the page instead of their profile, or they just don't create a page at all, which is worse. So, in a nutshell, a LinkedIn page adds credibility to your company. if you are a solopreneur, a freelancer, or you have your own business, you must create a LinkedIn page and link to it from your profile at the very least. Okay. So if you don't take anything away from this session except for go create a LinkedIn page, go set it up, put it on your calendar, put it in your to do list. It's really, really important. So you must have that LinkedIn page and link to it from your profile, no matter how big or small your business is. So just be clear on that. Get a LinkedIn page, set it up. It doesn't matter the size of your company. Okay, so think about your LinkedIn page as the place where people go to learn about your company. So this is not where they're going to learn about you per se. They're learning about what your company does. So I like to break LinkedIn pages down into two segments based on company size. So see where you are and where you fit into these two categories. So for those of you with a company in the 1 to 10 employee range, all you need to do is set up a page and you don't need to actually post to the page. Surprising, right? So set up the page, and I'm going to discuss why in a few minutes. And just don't worry about it. Most solopreneurs or small companies don't actually need to use their page because they are the face of the brand, and people are much more likely to engage with the person over the page. So I'm actually going to share my screen so you can see my page right now, and I practice what I preach. So you can see my page right here on the screen. And when you look at my page, you can see that I have never posted. So I do not post to my page. I have some followers here, but all I did with my page was I wanted to set it up and make sure that people could find me and find my website. And I'm not worried about posting to it. Why? Because I'm much more interested in connecting with people through my own profile. I am the face of my company. And it feels kind of silly to post from Mindi Rosser Marketing when it's basically me and a few other freelancers and VAs and a small support team. Okay, so that's one example of a page. Now, for those of you who have a B2B, that's a business to business company with 11 plus employees, so you have a bigger company, you have a team, you should set up a page and regularly post to the page, ensure it's active. Okay, so write that down. If you have a B2B company and you have a size of 11 plus employees, you should be posting to your page. It's important to post at least, I would say, probably once or twice a month if you're just getting started and trying to find your voice on LinkedIn. It just depends on how much content you have. Do you have people who can actually manage the page for you or work with you on the page? I think the biggest thing is to keep it simple and focus on reposting content from other channels. So if you have other company accounts, maybe you have a Facebook page and you're posting content there, just repost what you're posting there to your page. There are some nuances to LinkedIn content and how to post it, but we're not going to get into that today. The most important thing is that you're active. So let me show you an example of a page that I think does a really good job of this and is in that 11 to 50 employee range. And this is Membrane. So if you check out their page, you can kind of scroll down and see that there's a variety of content. There's something happening here just about every day. There are different types of posts that are being shared. There's some engagement. You'll see some polls here. You'll see some blog articles here. But Membrane has been around for a very long time. So they've kind of figured out how would I say, the flow of what they want to post here, and they are getting engagement, especially when they collaborate and mention other companies, mention other people, and notify their employees. So there's a lot of advanced tactics that are in that Membrane is using for their channel, but that's an example so you can kind of get an idea of what a good LinkedIn page looks like. Okay, so which category? First of all, think about which category are you in? What do you want to accomplish with your page? So, caveat, I have had some people in that 1 to 10 employee range who still wanted to use their page and cross promote it with their personal profile. So, you may be one of those people. If you think, Mindi, I know, I hear what you're saying, but I still want to use my page. I'm trying to get as much bang for my buck as I can on LinkedIn. And if my page is going to give me an edge, I want to do that. If that's you, great. If you have the bandwidth and you've dialed in what you're posting on your profile and you are ready to kind of take that to the next level with your page, then I think that's fantastic. It really is a personal decision, and it all depends on your bandwidth and how much content you have, which we'll get into in a few minutes. So here's an example of somebody that I have worked with, and she had a podcast. And with her podcast, she was trying to drive more people to the podcast and maybe They didn't have as much of a personal relationship with her, but they would be great for the podcast and they would really enjoy the podcast. So she used her company page to promote the podcast. And I thought that was a really great way to go about it. She's a solopreneur, so she also shared that content from her personal profile, but she wanted it to have that feel of being sponsored by the company. The podcast is sponsored by her company page. So I think that level of formality worked really, really well for her, and she kind of got the best of both worlds. So people that her company page following was much smaller, but people that may not have seen her personal profile post would see her company page posts. Okay, so it can be helpful in certain circumstances. You really have to figure that out for yourself. Okay, so for those of you who are eager to use your LinkedIn page effectively and actually want to post to your page, we are going to go through 5 questions to ask yourself to help you determine when to use your page over your profile. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is your page the best place to share this content? So there's a big difference between a page and a profile. When you are sharing content that is a little more formal, that is company related, maybe it's a job post, anything along those lines, this is a really good place to use your page because it is much more formal. It's much more related to the company. If you have a brand voice, it'll come out in your brand voice for the company versus your personal voice. So I feel like the more company related announcements, if you have anything on, that's PR related, all of that can be really good to just post on your LinkedIn page. Really good place for it. Now, your profile is where you're going to actually see more engagement. So if you have like an insightful, reflective piece that you want to share, maybe you had a great experience with a customer and you want to share that with your following, your profile is a better place to do that. Don't do that on the page. The page should be very formal. It should be very straightforward. You're likely going to see less engagement because of that, but it needs to have that feel of a formal company page. And profiles is where you're going to be much more personal. This is where your personality comes out. It needs to feel very different from your page. One big mistake is people will post the same thing to their profile as they're posting to their page. And then people get this sense like there's a disconnect, and people can tell when you are cross posting like that. So make sure they're very different. So even if you're posting the same piece of content to your page versus your profile, for example, like a blog article, if you were choosing to post that to your page, I would use a very formal, much more formal tone, like, this was just posted to the blog. I think here are some interesting insights. Add some hashtags, good to go. If you're sharing that blog from your profile, you may want to say, I had this really interesting conversation with the customer. And as we were going through that, blah, 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 it was really insightful. And so I wrote this blog as a result. So do you see the difference? It's not like, okay, there's a blog up, that's a company page post. No, on your profile, it's going to be much more conversational. It's going to feel much more like you. Okay, so number 2 is, what is your objective for your LinkedIn page? A lot of us think, okay, we just got to post everywhere. We get that frenzy like, okay, I have a page, I have an Instagram account, I have Facebook, I have my personal profile. I got to post all of these places. And we forget to ask ourselves, what's the reason that we're doing all of this activity? So if you are getting to do a LinkedIn page and you really want to invest some effort there, what are you going for? What are you hoping to achieve? Here are some ideas of what you could be wanting to achieve and what some of my other clients and students have focused on with their pages. So number 1 could be engagement. So if you are focused on getting people to engage with you, that is a reasonable objective for your LinkedIn page. You will have to work pretty hard to get that engagement, more so than you would on a personal profile, just because many people don't tend to engage with brands as much as they do personalities. Another objective could be you just want to post regularly. So you want to make sure that your page looks current, it looks good, it matches your brand. That's fine. You don't have to worry so much about engagement. If you just say, I just want to post once or twice a month, make sure something current is there. If there's an important company announcement, I'm going to put it on the page. That's totally fine as well. Some people like to use it as an outlet to feature maybe a webinar series or a series of articles that they're doing. So there's more of a campaign objective for the page. And so during certain times of year, you may see more activity on their page than others because they're using it to promote a specific campaign. So there are a number of other objectives, but those are just a few to get you thinking. Do any of those resonate with you? Think about it, but you need to have an objective for your page before you just start posting. All right, so the third question to ask yourself: how much content do you have available to post? Uh, some of us get really excited and we just are like, we're ready to post, like, okay, I'm just going to start this. I don't know what content. I don't think I have enough content, but I'm just going to go for it. It's not the best mentality when you're approaching your page. You do want to make sure you have, I would say, at least a month's worth of content that you can share. And if you're only planning to post once a month, that's just one post. If you're creating fresh weekly content for your blog, for your podcast, for your video show, you might have a backlog of content that you could actually post to LinkedIn. So look and see what you're posting on other channels if you are posting. If you're not posting yet, just think of, starting with one a month. That's what I would highly recommend before you get too eager and overwhelm yourself with posting content to your page. If you're not creating content, start creating content. And it's a side note. If you have a business, you should be creating some type of content and sharing your thought leadership. Okay, so question number 4: do you have someone helping you to post the content? Easy to overlook this because we think we can just do it all ourselves. I am very guilty of this. I am currently working on outsourcing more things to my team as well. So, having somebody that's helpful, like a social media manager, most people could probably get away with just hiring a social media manager or a VA for about an hour or two a month to load up the page with content and manage the page. Just kind of keep an eye and make sure that there aren't customers that are commenting or engaging on the page and nobody's following up with them. That can be really helpful if you do not have the bandwidth and you really want to focus on, upping the engagement on your page. I would look at getting some help. Otherwise, you need to block it in your calendar that you are going to check your page every week, a couple times a week ideally, and then post however frequently you decide to post. Okay? Which brings us to our next question: how often do you plan to post content? We've talked around this throughout this live. I tend to recommend posting once weekly if you have the amount of content necessary to keep up this frequency. So that's key. So either monthly will work. If you're just getting started, you're trying to experiment. If you can work up to once per week, that is ideal. I feel like that keeps the page fresh. Make sure that people visiting the page don't think that the page is outdated. So once you start posting, you do need to keep up some type of frequency. So identify what that is for you. I have seen people like the page we looked at with Membrane, they try to post every weekday. So this is ideal if you have a larger company and there's a lot going on, you have a lot of content. Maybe you have a content marketing person on the team or a social media person to help you with sharing content. That could be a really good something to shoot for every weekday for a very engaging page. Remember, if you can only post once monthly, that's okay. Just don't let it go too long. Don't post once this month and then 6 months later decide to post again and expect people to respond. It's just not going to look that good. Okay, so let's recap. So the questions that we went through: is your page the best place for that piece of content? Page versus profile. Remember the difference. Number 2, what's your objective for your page? Make sure you have a very clear objective so you aren't wasting your time. Number 3, how much content do you have available right now? Do you need to create some more before you start posting? Do you feel comfortable with the backlog that you have? And number 4, do you have someone helping you to post? Are you planning to do it yourself? Make sure to save some time if you're planning to post it yourself. And then finally, how often do you plan to post content? Weekly, monthly, 5 times a week, whatever it is, pick it and go for it. Okay, so that covers what we wanted to talk about with LinkedIn pages and when to use the profile versus the page, kind of how to get started and some questions to ask yourself. Remember, if you're limited on time, I want you to focus on your LinkedIn profile before ever posting to your LinkedIn page. Okay, profile before page. Once you have a really good system with your profile and you're ready to take it a step further, that's when you add the page to your profile and start playing with it. You can have a lot of fun with pages and profiles and resharing each other's posts and kind of building more brand awareness and visibility. As you saw on the Membrane page, you might have seen it. You can actually invite people to like your company page, which is pretty neat. So there are a lot of really cool features that you can explore with a page that you don't have access to with a profile. But first, dial in your profile, make sure you're posting regularly, and then look at your page. Okay, so before you start testing out your page, Be sure that you have a decent LinkedIn profile. It is critical before you start posting that your profile is dialed in. I have a 3-part video mini training called How to Reboot Your LinkedIn Profile to Grow Your Online Business. It is jam-packed with templates, examples, a step-by-step approach to optimizing your headline, what to do with that about section, plus how to make your experience section shine. So if you want to get instant access to that, comment below with I want the reboot. So just say, comment below this post and say, Mindy, I want the reboot. Message me and I will get it straight over to you. And then next week, we are going to be talking about 3 LinkedIn mindset myths. That's hard to say that are holding you back from success. So that should be fun. We're going to really dive into the mindset and how to approach LinkedIn from a different point of view and how that actually translates to business results. So in the meantime, feel free to leave questions or comments below, and my inbox is open if you want to message me directly, and I will see you next week. Have a fantastic week.